Retirement for Life, your passport to a comfortable and confident retirement. The podcast that's equal parts education and entertainment, where we break down the retirement maze with a dash of fun and a heap of wisdom from your host, Christian Sear CPA, the passionate retirement specialist and president of Sear Financial Wealth Advisors, the independent registered investment advisor specializing in the AIM retirement system.
Hey everybody, this is Chris Sear, your partner in retirement, your partner for life. This is the Retirement for Life show. Today's episode is a very special topic near and dear to my heart. If you listen to episode 1, you know the reason why I started the Retirement for Life show, at least one of the reasons why. Had some personal issues in 2023 with some family members who kind of surprisingly needed long-term care. This wasn't something that was anticipated. It was more or less a surprise. It kind of shocked all of us. But that story that I shared briefly in episode 1 really shared the need for long-term care with my family. As an advisor, helping people with retirement talk about long-term care all the time, I've spent the last 6 months taking a real deep dive into long-term care and protecting yourself in retirement. The video that we made that you'll listen to here in a second is relatively short. It is the best ways to handle long-term care. And I think it's important. One of the points I make is that there's a 50% chance that a 65-year-old couple or a 65-year-old period is going to need long-term care, paid long-term care. And too often people walk into my office as a client of AIM Retirement, and that system does a good job of talking about long-term care. And I can't tell you how often a gentleman will say, I'm not going to need a nursing home. Well, that's fine to say that, but I think it's ignorant to pretend like you're not part of the statistic, that you're a special case. Yes, you may not need long-term care, but maybe your wife does. And planning for this is important. And so the point I make, one of the main points, is that just because you're addressing the long-term care topic doesn't mean that you're actually doing anything about it. It means you're being smart about a potential risk. I talk about the 3 categories. Every retiree falls into one of the 3 categories. I talk about, depending on which category you're in for long-term care, what you might want to do to protect yourself from long-term care, or what you might not want to do, but at least be aware of. So special thanks to Brooke, who sat here with me today, and thanks, Brooke, I appreciate it, who helped me make this video. We'll start it now, and I hope you enjoy it. It's all about long-term care, and it applies to everybody. As a retiree or soon-to-be retiree, there is a 47% chance that you will need paid long-term care. Don't believe it? In 2020 alone, Americans paid $64 billion in out-of-pocket expenses for long-term care. In this video, I'll share a real-life story of a client who absolutely got bamboozled by the long-term care insurance company. We'll discuss the 3 categories of long-term care and which one you fit into, and ways to approach long-term care depending on which category you're in. Keep in mind, the best solution may be to do absolutely nothing. But spoiler alert, the answer certainly is not to buy traditional long-term care insurance. We'll talk about that. What is for certain, not addressing the long-term care issue at all can be a recipe for retirement disaster. Hi, if we haven't met, my name is Christian Sear, CPA, retirement specialist, founder of the AIM retirement system. On this channel, we make videos to help retirees and soon-to-be retirees navigate retirement issues with 2 goals in mind: maximizing chances of retirement success and increasing multi-generational wealth. Let's get started. Addressing long-term care is a 2-step process. Step 1, understand the risk. Step 2, mitigate the risk. Why? Consider this interaction I had with a client just this year. He's extremely disappointed. Before he became a client, he purchased 2 long-term care policies, one for him, one for his wife. He's been paying into these policies for 10 years, and all of a sudden he gets a notice from his insurance company, your premiums are going to double. He gets upset, but he pays them, and life goes on. Last year, he got another notice, and this year, the premium notice was an increase of 250%. As it says in the notes from the meeting, he feels sick about this and he is looking for another alternative to protect himself and his wife. If you actually go and look at what I wrote down after the meeting, I think it says it all. In my assessment, my post-meeting notes, I said he was expecting in his financial plan to pay $200,000 of long-term care premiums over the entire course of his retirement. Now, with these increases from these long-term care insurance companies, he is looking at, if he continues to pay the premiums, $600,000 to $1.5 million. This is crazy. Traditional long-term care insurance started in the 70s. It was touted as a way to really protect people from eroding their retirement savings. They became very popular. These traditional long-term care insurance policies, you put the money here, it sits over here, you never get to see it again unless you go into a nursing home. But it was an effective way to protect and mitigate risk, which is what we're talking about today for long-term care. The sales of these policies from 1990 to 2002, they doubled. Unfortunately, as in the example I just showed you, these insurance companies made some mistakes. They made countless mistakes, in fact, in designing these products. Long-term care insurance does not make sense. It no longer makes sense in most cases. There used to be hundreds of companies selling these products. Today, there's less than 5. So how else should you tackle this long-term care insurance issue? Well, as I said, the first step is identifying the risk. Okay, I'm not going to get into the dreadful details of what long-term care is like. You all have a picture of it in your mind, but I do want to address the cost. There's basically 2 kinds of care. You have your assisted living care. You're okay. You're dealing day-to-day fairly well, but there's some things that you just can't handle on your own. Maybe it's feeding yourself. Maybe it's bathing yourself. This environment where you need assisted long-term care basically is costing you $4,000 to $6,000 a month. It could be in your home. It could be in a nursing home, but that's the general coverage cost, $4,000 to $6,000 per month. The other side of long-term care can be a little bit more serious. It's true nursing care. This environment looks more like a hospital. There's doctors walking around, there's nurses, there's hospital beds instead of a normal bed. This is more serious care. The need is more serious. Therefore, the cost is more serious, $10,000 to $12,000 a year. So, does this apply to you? People who are ignorant say, I'm never going to go in a nursing home. There is a basically 50% chance when I'm looking and working with a 65-year-old couple, there's a 50% chance that they're going to need long-term care, paid long-term care, okay? The average length of stay typically is a little over a year. Women tend to stay in a nursing home a little bit longer, but the average length of stay for both men and women is less than a year. However, it's not unheard of. Sometimes you get cases where people are staying in a nursing home for 8, 9, 10 years or more. So the problem, the very crux of this long-term problem, this long-term care problem, is that it could be a $0 problem. It could also be a $1 million problem, literally. So you can't ignore it, all right? It starts with sitting down with a level 5 advisor. That's where all things start, okay? You're addressing long-term care with this advisor. It doesn't mean you're doing anything about it, but at least you're tackling it and you're discussing it. The way I like to tackle long-term care in the AIM retirement system, I'll show you. This is what I found makes most sense for our clients. Your situation could be very different, but this is how we tackle it, and it seems to be an effective way. You first identify 3 categories, okay? This is a diagram that I show people. Basically, every single retiree in America fits into one of these 3 categories, okay? On the left-hand side, up and down, you're addressing how healthy you and your family is. On the bottom, you're addressing how much money you and your spouse have saved. There's 3 different categories, okay? Let's start by looking at category 1, Medicaid planning strategies. This category, you haven't saved enough money that you can afford to just throw money at a problem, okay? Your advisor has indicated that you need to look at some Medicare planning strategies, and that's what you're doing here. Let's talk about some of those. So you know Medicaid, it's a state-run program. There's 50 states, there's 50 Medicaid programs. Doesn't matter, like Tennessee is called TennCare, Massachusetts it's called Mass Health, California is called Medi-Cal. Some form of Medicaid, every state has it. The good news about Medicaid is that if you don't have any money, you've run out of money, and you need nursing care, Medicaid will generally pay for it. The bad news is they're going to make sure that you basically spend every last dollar you have before they will pay for it. What does this mean? It means if you need nursing home care, you're going to have to take money out of your bank. Once your bank account is empty, you're going to have to empty your savings. Once your savings is empty, you're going to have to cash out your CDs, your investments, your stocks, your bonds, et cetera, et cetera. Most states, you do have to actually use your retirement accounts as well. Every state is different. In some states, even your spouse's retirement is fair game for the state. Will you lose your house when you're in a nursing home? Generally, no, but practically, yes. I don't want to get into it, but if a person's in a nursing home for 5 years and they don't have any money left and they're on Medicaid, they don't generally have money to pay the property taxes or an insurance on their house. Therefore, they end up most of the time selling their house. And in many cases, even if they don't sell their house, if Medicaid has provided a lot of benefits for you in a nursing home, they're going to do what's called a Medicaid estate recovery and eventually take your house anyway. So how can you prevent this? Well, these are what the Medicaid planning strategies are. Essentially, they involve giving your stuff away, okay? If you don't own anything, the state can't take anything. Generally, you need to give your stuff away 5 years before you apply for Medicaid, right? You can't find out today that you have Alzheimer's and you're about to go into a home and you say, oh my goodness, I don't want the state to take all my assets. I'm just going to give everything to my kids. No, this has to be done 5 years or before. And every state's different. Some states aren't 5 years, but generally it's a 5-year look-back rule. Prevents you from giving away your money so the state can't take it. So what do you do for these Medicare planning strategies? Let me just say I'm going to give them to you. I'm not a big fan because essentially you're giving away everything you have on the chances that you may go into a nursing care situation. And keep in mind, the average length of stay is 1 year. So while a 1 year stay in a nursing home can be expensive in a sad situation, it generally is not going to blow up a retirement. But there are those cases where, as I said, it could be 10 years. So Medicaid planning strategies, you're basically giving everything you have that you've worked hard for. And here's how you do it. You basically donate or gift your assets to your kids, okay? Or you gift your assets to an irrevocable trust. In both these cases, you literally don't own anything because you've given it away. I think another viable solution for people in this category that I really, really stress is, look, if you want to give all your stuff away and the chances that you go to a nursing home, go ahead and do it. But really what you should be doing is identifying a family member who may be willing to give you care for the need of long-term care because you don't have necessarily enough money to pay for it. This is the conversation you should be having with your kids or somebody who you trust if you're in this category. As I said, all these strategies can be discussed with a level 5 advisor. Remember, you're not necessarily taking action, you're just addressing them, which brings me to category 2, hybrid long-term care. Long-term hybrid protection products have become increasingly popular as a long-term care funding strategy. Generally, these products are life insurance, but kind of light on the life insurance. In other words, the death benefit for the traditional life insurance policy is high. These death benefits are much smaller than usual. However, they have a very robust long-term care component if they are needed. Unlike traditional long-term care insurance, this is not a use it or lose it. This is a use it or pass it along to your heirs. Let's take an example and see what I'm talking about. So I've got a fictitious 65-year-old couple. They've saved $1 million. They've come into the office. They're going through the AM retirement system. We've identified that we can take $850,000 of their nest egg and put it into a very viable retirement plan. The AIM retirement system is putting through all their paces, and with this $850,000, they have a very nice looking retirement plan with, let's say, a 98% chance of retirement success. However, they're very concerned about long-term care. They want to have protection. We have $150,000 that we've moved over into a separate bucket, the hybrid life long-term care protection bucket. Let's see what that looks like for them. So very simply, you'll see the $150,000, it does one of two things. It's a very simple product. That $150,000, if they have a healthy life for the rest of their life and never need long-term care, the $150,000 turns into $200,000 tax-free death benefit for their children. Okay, but what if they have long-term care issues as they were concerned about? this $150,000 is no longer a $200,000 death benefit. It is now turned into $700,000 of long-term care protection. This is a joint policy, okay? That's why I like it the best, and that's why they're popular. If you get the right one, it's a joint protection. So coverage can be for mom, can be for dad, or both of them. $700,000 of long-term care coverage if they need it. So effectively, what have they done? They've taken 15% of their nest egg, which they didn't need because the 85% over here in their retirement plan is already giving them a very confident and comfortable retirement. The 15% is more or less an insurance policy. It's actually literally an insurance policy. That money is going to turn into a great tax-free benefit for their heirs or $700,000 of long-term protection. This type of solution can make sense if you're in that middle red category, that category where you're not a multi-billionaire, but you've saved up enough money that you probably want to do something about that. So a word of warning about these long-term care hybrid strategies. I have studied them for years. I've used them for years in the right circumstances. But you're still betting that you're going to need protection, right? I have seen many instances where simply investing the $150,000 of that money in a balanced portfolio can, again, in many instances, provide the same level of long-term care protection or even more. So it is a case-by-case basis. Remember, you're identifying which category you're in, and then you're having a discussion with a qualified Level 5 advisor to decide what's the best way to go. I found that these hybrid strategies are the most effective in certain situations, specifically the following. Situation one, you're in the middle category. You've saved up a considerable amount of money, but not enough that you have unlimited resources. And you have reason to believe, family history, your own personal history, that you may be more likely to have a long-term care stay, and especially if it might be longer than just 1 or 2 years. That's situation one where these hybrid solutions can be effective. Situation two, these products can be effective for retirees who are just concerned. I have a lot of clients who walk in the door. They've saved up a lot of money. They're healthy. Their parents were healthy. They don't have anything in their family health history, but what they do have is a deep concern for going into a nursing care home. These products can be effective in alleviating that concern for that type of person. And situation number three, these long-term care hybrid protection products can be especially effective in cases of cognitive care, Alzheimer's, dementia, et cetera, et cetera. On to category three. There's not much to say about this category. This is I have enough money, I don't need long-term care category. And I always ask the question, does the richest man in the world need long-term care protection? Probably not. But is it a financially beneficial way to do something with your money? It depends. I just showed you how $150,000 can turn into something more than $150,000. I work with some very wealthy clients who just want the protection. It can be useful. All I'm going to say, though, is most of my clients in bucket number three, that green self-insurance bucket, they generally don't see the value of throwing money at long-term care protection. As I said, some of them do, most of them don't. Remember the goal of the AIM retirement system. It's to maximize chances of retirement success, but also implementing strategies that maximize legacy. When we're talking about maximizing legacy, when we throw these long-term care solutions into a person's plan who is very high net worth, they don't usually move the dial in that regard. So let's summarize. Addressing long-term care is required in financial planning. If you're going to have a complete plan, you're not going to pretend like you're not a statistic like everyone else is. You're going to at least address it. When you're addressing long-term care, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do anything about it, but it does mean that you're going to make an educated and informed assessment of your risk. And identifying which of the three categories that you fall in, that is the first step. A plan with a level 5 advisor is critical. These hybrid long-term care solutions can offer significant protection against higher long-term costs. Making a plan with a level 5 advisor is critical. A hybrid long-term care solution, like we talked about, can be an effective use of your allocated assets in protecting against long-term care. That's the story on long-term care. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Hey guys, thanks for listening to this. This long-term care episode was important to me. That video is on YouTube, and I think it's going to be I hope, impactful for a lot of people who may not know how to address long-term care. If you enjoyed this episode, you know we're getting momentum in the retirement for life world. We're getting a lot of people paying attention to us, and I hope that content like this is helpful for people. So if you're out there anywhere in this world listening, watching, give us a like or rate us, or if it's anything that you think is worth sharing with others, go ahead and do that too. Our next episode, I'll just give you a little spoiler alert, is going to be a lot of fun because it turns out something that I didn't anticipate is happening. People are watching these videos that I'm making and taking in our content. And shocker, Brooke knows this, but I didn't know this. Apparently, 100% of people out there don't agree with my opinions. So episode 10 is going to be all the comments of people telling me I'm an idiot. And not all of them, but a lot of them. And we're going to address some of those comments. It's going to be a fun episode, so make sure you stay tuned for episode 10. Thanks again for listening about long-term care costs today. Take care.
Investment advisory services provided by Sear Financial, Inc., SEC registered investment advisor. All content on this podcast is for information purposes only and should not be considered investment, legal, or tax advice. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by our firm as to another party's informational accuracy or completeness.